In this video, I go over various solutions you can use to fix an overburdened Wi-Fi network, including small tweaks to your wireless router. In this video, we'll discuss various steps you can take to improve your home network and Wi-Fi performance. The first thing you need to do is make sure your wireless router is located in a strategic location in your home, or at least centrally located to all your devices. When you relocate your wireless router, simply moving it to an area that is accessible to all your devices can make a huge difference. Make sure to avoid objects that can block Wi-Fi signals, such as large pieces of metal and concrete. Electronic devices, such as microwaves, refrigerators, and cordless phones, can also interfere with wireless signals. Your wireless router will be in best condition by itself on top of a bookshelf. For some reason, ISPs like to place their equipment in remote corners of the house, in basements, laundry rooms, or garages. Therefore, you need to keep an eye on them and be physically present when they come to install the equipment. If this is not possible, you may have to move it yourself. Depending on how your apartment or house is set up, this might be as simple as moving your modem, coax cable, and wireless router to another room. Use coaxial cable to connect. If the area of the house where you want to move your items does not have coax fiber optic or phone connections, you may need to ask your internet service provider for help. It's one thing to share flour, sugar, or bread with your neighbors, but you don't want to find yourself sharing your internet connection. Not only is it wrong to pay for someone else's Wi-Fi, but depending on what they do, they can be a serious drag on your internet connection. If they are hackers, you face another set of problems. An easy way around this problem is to use a complex password, which means don't use your home phone number, name, or street address. You want to use a bunch of random letters and numbers that don't make sense. Yes, it's hard to remember, but now, they have password manager programs that make it easier to remember complex passwords. The good thing is that most wireless devices will remember your password once you enter it. Almost all wireless routers today have two frequency bands, a 2.4 GHz band and a 5 GHz band. The reason for this is actually quite clever. For one thing, since they are on completely different frequencies, devices on one band, water will interfere with devices on the other band, which allows you to have more devices in a specific area without having to worry about them interfering with each other. They also specialize in different types of connections. The 5 GHz band is faster than the 2.4 GHz band, but it can't get through obstacles as easily. While the 2.4 GHz band is slower, the range is longer and I just have to move the device from the 2.4 GHz band to the 5 GHz band. You'll get better performance on devices that require a lot of bandwidth. I'll go into more detail about how to use the bands on different devices and how to use a feature called Smart Connect to automatically manage this. In my introduction to the Wi-Fi video, as I said before, a Wi-Fi connection is shared with everyone else and all other devices on your home network. The way content is shared isn't always fair, as some devices, such as computers and laptops, spend a lot of time surfing the web or checking emails and don't really use a lot of bandwidth, but other devices, such as phones, are constantly streaming video, game consoles, and 4K TVs use a lot of bandwidth, slowing things down. Turn off the network for other devices. Or the shoe might be on the other foot. If you are trying to watch videos or play video games and what other people are doing on the web, slow down your speed. Sometimes, it can be simple to find these devices and turn them off. But if this is not possible, there are other ways to control the situation. The best approach is something called quality of service, or QoL, which allows you to prioritize the devices in your home and make everything fairer. Some types of wireless routers handle this priority for you, while others allow you to configure it. But it doesn't happen automatically. At least, it has to be open. I'll go over how to configure the QoS in detail in the wireless router setup video. Maybe you remember the old days of using battery-powered AM/FM radios and searching through the dial to find stations with a strong signal. Along the way you encounter many weaker stations overlapping each other. Many people who own wireless bikes don't even know their wireless routers have channels, but they do. Your wireless router also uses radio waves, and you can use channels to find a stronger connection to your wireless router. If you live in an apartment or have neighbors with wireless routers, finding the channels everyone else is using is simple. This is especially true on the 2.4 GHz band, which only has 11 channels, and only 3 of those 11 do not overlap with 1, 6, and 11. Therefore, you need to focus on these 3 channels. The 5 GHz band has more channels and non-overlapping channels. So on the 5 GHz band, it's not that big of an issue. Most wireless router manufacturers default their routers to channel 6 on the 2.4 GHz band, which means you probably live in an apartment building filled with other wireless routers running channel 6. This may make it difficult for you to establish a strong connection with your wireless router. There is also a setting called Auto, which you should avoid using as it may cause you to end up on a different channel every time you restart the router. If other routers in your area are also set to automatic, you may end up with some pretty unpredictable results. So how do you know which channel to use? Well, it depends on the channels other people use. You can find this out by installing a free program on your computer, such as a Wi-Fi analyzer or smartphone. It will display the information you are looking for in a simple chart format. So in this example, the channel is on the bottom bar and the signal strength is on the left. The closer to 0, the stronger the signal. This is my wireless router. Set to automatic. So it decided to set itself to 2. That's good, actually, because it seems like almost everyone has done some research and decided to set their wireless router to channel 1. At least in my area, the channel being used is channel 1, so we're better off staying on this side of the spectrum. You'll notice that since the wireless network decided to set itself up to 2, it actually overlaps with some of the signal here. In this case, it's probably not a big deal. But it's still a good illustration. Changing wireless policy channels is very easy if you know where the settings are. It's usually under Wireless Settings, under Advanced Wireless Settings. Once there, you can choose which band you want to be a part of. Now, this blending mode is very useful if you have many different types of devices at your disposal. I cover it in depth in the ebook, and here is where you want to change channels. Now, like I said, you don't really have to worry about the 5 GHz side, but if you want to, that's okay. Now, these settings aren't really necessary. I'm just showing you something. Ebook channel. Finally, we can change the channel. If you watch my home networking basics video, everything you need to know about DNS helps your computer navigate the internet. Without it, nothing works. Most home networks use the wireless router IP address to forward all DNS requests to whatever DNS server your internet service provider provides you. Unfortunately, not all DNS servers are the same. Some may be busier or further away than others, which may make loading new web pages slower and more cumbersome. A long time ago, I got into the habit of bypassing my ISP's DMS servers and using Google's very reliable DNS server service, and I've never looked back since. This means simply changing your DNS server address from your wireless router IP address to 8888888. You can do this on each computer on your network, or on all computers at once by changing the settings on your wireless router. Doing this on your computer is easy. Just go to the bottom search bar and type in Ethernet or Wi-Fi, depending on which one you're using. Then change the adapter options, find your network connection, click on it and go to Properties. There you will find Internet Protocol. Go to Properties and change the directory, at the bottom here, to the 88 directory, to do the same thing, to all machines, at the same time. We need to go into the data settings, on the wireless router. Remember, the date server, on your wireless router, not only assigns IP addresses, to all computers, it also assigns default gateway and DNS server addresses. To do this, we just need to log into the wireless router, go to the advanced data server, and this is the area where you want to make changes. The typical lifespan of a wireless router is 4 to 5 years. 4 or 5 years later, technology changed and something greater came along. That doesn't mean your wireless router won't undergo some changes in the meantime. Things are always changing on the internet, and many times wireless router manufacturers have to make changes to accommodate them. Wireless router manufacturers are always looking for ways to tweak the performance of their wireless routers and add features. No need to create an entirely new model. The way they do this is through firmware upgrades. Therefore, before upgrading your wireless router firmware, it's a good idea to check your wireless router regularly to make sure it's completely up to date and taking advantage of all those new features and tweaks. You'll need to know certain information, such as model number, hardware version, serial number, and current updates. So you can compare these numbers with the latest firmware updates available. I go into more detail on how to do this in my wireless router setup video, but here's a basic overview of the process. So basically this is an advanced feature. You go into System Tools on that particular router and do a firmware upgrade. Here you can check which version you are using, and if you need to upgrade, you can check for upgrades. Once the file is downloaded, you simply browse to the file and click Upgrade. If in doubt, restart the IT site. There are no more enduring words of wisdom. No matter how advanced computers and electronics are, there's no substitute for a good old-fashioned reboot. I can't tell you how many times I've spent ages trying to fix a problem, and then out of frustration, I just turned the computer off and on again. Like magic, the problem was solved. We put a lot of demands on our computers and electronics, and sometimes they just need a break. Restarting gives your computer or electronic device a chance to cool down, clean itself up, and start over. It also gives the computer a chance to adapt to upgrades, updates, and configuration changes. Back when Wi-Fi first came out, people were always frustrated by having to reboot their wireless routers to get them to work again. Thankfully, that's not the case. Use newer equipment. However, if your wireless router is showing signs of getting stuck for no apparent reason, it might be helpful to reboot so that any free fix can resolve the issue. Now, if all the tweaks we've made so far don't have any effect, what we're going to do now might end up costing us a little money. It's time to start taking stock of what exactly we have in terms of hardware, and that means taking a closer look at what kind of wireless devices we have, and the wireless technologies we are using. By wireless technology, I mean manufacturers in recent years. To the latest improvements to Wi-Fi, such as new MIMO beams that form airtime, fairness, quality of service, and intelligent connectivity. These features can all be found on many newer wireless routers and devices, and I cover each of them in detail in my introduction to Wi-Fi video. Maybe you purchased a wireless router before and saw the description of the device change. Wireless network like this. 6 devices are backwards compatible with Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 4 backwards compatible. Newer devices can be compatible with older devices, but unfortunately there is no such thing as forward compatibility. Can I connect a Wi-Fi device to a Wi-Fi 5 wireless router? Does not turn your device into a Wi-Fi 5 device. It only slows down your wireless router to Wi-Fi speeds, and to get the full benefits of a Wi-Fi 5 wireless router, you need to use a Wi-Fi 5 device. The same goes for some Wi-Fi technologies, such as M2, MIMO, and beamforming. I mentioned before that many of these features only work with certain versions of Wi-Fi. I cover all the details in my introduction to Wi-Fi video. The cheapest upgrade you can make to your wireless network is to upgrade your wireless router antenna. The antenna signal strength of most wireless routers is only 3 to 5 kilobases, and for just a few dollars you can upgrade it to 9 or 10 kilobases and get an instant improvement in Wi-Fi signal strength. Unfortunately, not all wireless router antennas are detachable, so if you feel like this is what you end up doing in the long run. Detachable antennas are a feature you want to look for when buying a wireless router. Rather than buying an antenna, you want to try and find one designed specifically for your wireless router. If you can't find one made specifically for your cordless router, you may have to get a little creative. This means getting familiar with some terminology for the connectors on these things. Most of us can identify the difference between male and female plugs. But when it comes to these connectors, it can be confusing. Basically, what you need to remember is, if you see AOP, that means opposite polarity. This means that no matter what you expect to see, the opposite is true. As you can see from this diagram, assume the male connector has the pins you expect. But in our PSM, the male connector does not. Instead, it looks like a female connector. This is because the polarity of R.P is opposite. Because I'll probably do another cheap, but very effective upgrade as a wireless adapter. If you come home with a brand new Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6 wireless router with all the latest and greatest technology, and all you have is an old laptop with a Wi-Fi 4 adapter, then you will never realize all the benefits of Wi-Fi unless you can upgrade its adapter with a Wi-Fi 5 adapter, which also supports all the latest technologies. To illustrate how quick and easy it is to change the functionality of older wireless devices and laptops using a wireless AC adapter, let's take a quick look at the network connections on this computer. Now, access to network settings depends on whether you're using Wi-Fi or Ethernet. I'm using Ethernet, so I'm going to say Ethernet. Your Ethernet settings, change adapter options. You can see all the network connections on your computer here. Now, on this particular laptop, I have an internet connection that is currently enabled, and then we have the built-in Wi-Fi Intel Centrino Ultimate Wireless Adapter. Please check the internal network speed on the Ethernet cable. Let's know the status. As we know, Category 6 Ethernet cable has a maximum capacity of 1 gigabit. Okay, so now all we have to do is connect the wireless network to the 5 GHz side of the wireless router. Okay, so connected. Okay, so we're connected. Let's right-click. Going to status, we can see that this is 450 megabits per second. Okay, so now all I have to do is disconnect and plug in the new wireless adapter. No drivers, no installation required, simple plug and play. Right-click on the connection. I'll connect it again to the 5 GHz side of the wireless router. Unless you have a difference, so the adapter's Wi-Fi is 450 megabits per second. The Wi-Fi 5 wireless adapter is the 860, which is very close to the 1 gigabyte we get with the Ethernet connection. If the wireless issues you are having are not really related to a specific device, but to a specific area of your home, say somewhere in a corner of guest rooms, you don't want to spend a lot of money on a wireless router upgrade or even a mesh system. An easy way to deal with this is to use a wireless extender. Wireless extender is like a small wireless router without all the other wireless router features and connections. Basically, it picks up your wireless router signal and rebroadcasts it to another area of your home that may be experiencing wireless issues due to a lack of range or signal strength. So here we have a perfectly placed wireless router that provides good coverage to all areas of your home except your porch. We don't really spend a lot of time here, so we didn't want to spend a lot of money just to get a little Wi-Fi signal on the porch. So we're just going to plug the wireless extender into the wall outlet here. Given that this wall here is not made of metal or concrete, we should get enough signal here for several smartphones. Our expectations of wireless devices and their capabilities have changed a lot in a short period of time, and so have the capabilities of wireless routers. The fact that you are watching this video indicates that the Wi-Fi connection in your home is not meeting your expectations. If this is the case, it may be time to make some changes now or in the near future. The good thing is that all of these technological advancements usually come with price drops. You don't have to buy the biggest, baddest wireless router with the most antennas on the market to see some improvements to your home Wi-Fi network. You just have to understand what you need and what it takes to achieve that goal. There are also some very good wireless routers available for under $100. If you are still using wireless N or Wi-Fi as your wireless router and are facing wireless network issues, then your solution is very simple. All you need to do is upgrade to Wi-Fi 5 or wireless AC. You don't need to spend a lot of money to get good performance. As long as you have a wireless AC or Wi-Fi 5 Wave 2-band device, you'll get most of the features you need for good Wi-Fi performance. Now, if you like video games, you don't need me to tell you anything because you already have a simple router and a good idea of what some of the latest features can do for you. A full explanation of these features can be found in my Introduction to Wi-Fi video. If you already own a Wi-Fi 5 router and are considering purchasing a Wi-Fi 6 router, your decision should really come down to how many Wi-Fi 6 devices you own. If you primarily own Wi-Fi 5 devices, buying a Wi-Fi 6 router will provide virtually no improvement. And even though Wi-Fi 6 is backwards compatible with Wi-Fi 5, I wouldn't go out and buy a Wi-Fi 6 router until I have a lot of Wi-Fi 6 devices. Wi-Fi 6 devices have become more and more common. The final word in Wi-Fi performance is mesh networking. One day, all home networks may be mesh networks, and we will think of the way we use traditional routers today as the old-fashioned way. Most mesh systems are very easy to set up and provide excellent Wi-Fi performance in homes up to, sometimes more than 5,000 square feet. They have an extremely intuitive smartphone interface that you can use to set up and configure them. What is the biggest advantage of mesh? This is called seamless roaming, and it means you don't have to disconnect from the wireless network and reconnect even if you have multiple access points in your home. When you roam from one place to another, the only downside to grids is cost, but costs are also coming down. About expanding your wireless network. If you've tried all of the methods mentioned in this video to improve your Wi-Fi performance and are still having trouble surfing the internet, your problem may not be a Wi-Fi issue at all. Your problem may lie with your ISP and your internet wireless connection. If you call your ISP immediately to express your suspicions, they will most likely tell you that they will run some tests and then they will tell you that everything is fine. If you really want someone to come out and take a look at the connections inside and outside your home, you're going to have to reinforce them by telling them some of the troubleshooting steps you've taken. You also want to test the speed directly from your modem to determine if the problem is with your ISP or something on your network. To do this, you need to unplug the cable between your modem and wireless router and plug it into your laptop or computer so that the computer can connect directly to the internet. You may need to reboot to get an IP address directly from your ISP, just like your wireless router. Once connected to the internet, take a speed test, tap and record your speed. Okay, that's it for today's video. Bye.